All right, thank you everyone. And with this, I want to hop into our next and final session for the day, which is on the quality appraisal tool for CLD evaluations. How do we ensure that organizations of all sizes, not just the big ones or ones with all resources, how do we ensure that national teams and all of us, when we are doing our evaluations, can produce high quality and rigorous evaluations, which are also true to the principles of CLD? That's what this session is about. And if we can move to the next slide, please. And you'll see the awesome people on the screen who've been involved in creating this tool. Matt Cruz was the chair for the subgroup, and Jennifer led the work in the second aspect of this tool creation. And if we go to the next screen, so this was a large group. You still have more people coming up who were part of the tool creation. And then this group is also, in addition to creating this tool, we briefly mentioned the rapid realist review at the start, in the plenary session that we are undertaking right now to look at the impact of CLD, programs, how, why, under what circumstances. So this is the realists are the group of people who are actually undertaking that currently with support from USAID IDEAL. And with that, I want to bring in my team and turn to Matt. So Matt, tell us a little bit about, this tool that you have here. What is its purpose and what was the process of creating this tool?
Thanks. And again, thanks to everybody on the team, both in the first and second iterations. It's definitely been a collaborative process. Really a community-focused process as a community of evaluators. So the whole process of the tool was to not just focus on the CLD aspect of a project, but also focus on the quality of the evaluation of a project. And so I know that Jennifer is going to be walking you through the different aspects of the tool itself, but it's the tool was designed using an existing USAID education evaluation tool or appraisal tool, and we removed some of the indicators that were not relevant. But the tool is designed to be very agnostic in the sense of it can be applied to any project, any program, any sector, and the scoring would be the same based on the metrics. So with that, I think I can turn to Jennifer for her to start to walk through the tool itself. But it's again, it has components for CLD specifically, but also for the integrity that evaluators and external and independent evaluators could look at it and say, this was a quality evaluation, this was a quality project, and so forth. So I'll turn it over to Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Simpson with PCI, Global Communities Partner, and I'm going to walk you all through the tool. I'm going to share my screen. So I hope everyone can see the screen. Yes?
Yep.
Great. So this is an evaluation quality appraisal tool. It exists in an Excel format for ease of use, storage, sharing. There are two sections of the tool. There is a guide page, and then there is the tab for the tool itself that contains a total of 13 questions. The tool's framework is really designed to appraise the strengths and the weaknesses of evaluation reports in terms of two key areas: methodological rigor and community-led development principles, so that the users of this tool across the NGO community can assess the overall quality of their program evaluation, assessment, or research study based on the corresponding written report. So first, when you enter the tool, you will see the guide page. This is what I'm sharing now. And the guide page covers the contents. There is describes the scope and purpose, how to use the tool, talks a little bit about the scoring and the rating of the tool, the different scoring brackets. There are 13 questions and there is a weighting. Some of the questions are weighted more heavily, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then the second tab being the tool worksheet itself. A couple of things to point out on this guide page is you'll notice that it's short and sweet. And so this is meant to be a fairly intuitive and easy to use tool by any kind of user. You don't have to be necessarily a monitoring and evaluation specialist to use the tool. You'll see that there are the scoring brackets. So these are brackets that tell you based on what your score is, how well is the rate, is your rating. So this is the rating based on that corresponding written report. So you can see, depending on what your score is, what you might be rated. There is also a CLD specific score rating, which gives you an idea of the 5 questions of those 13 that specifically address the CLD principle. You can grade each of the 13 questions as a yes, a no, or a partial score. I mentioned the weighting. Some of the questions are weighted high, and these are questions that the team felt were very, very important aspects for either methodological rigor or CLD principles. And so the points attributed to a particular score are a little higher for those questions that are rated high. So I'm going to jump into the tool itself. So this is what the tool looks like. You can put your evaluation or study title at the top, who is doing the assessor, when you're doing it, and you'll see the scores are actually provided at the top of the page. So as you're going through the questions, there are 13 of them. Where it's marked indicator, so that is the question that you would assess yourself on. And the area that you would actually interact with the tool would be under scoring. You use the drop down. Everything has a yes, a no, or partial. And as you enter your score, say if it's a partial score, it shows you that specific question score in the final score. And you will see that at the top, the scores update in real time. So you can see how your score is actually on an individual question might be influencing the overall score. There's also a comment box. So this is useful for providing a justification of the score or comments about why you may have given it a partial score versus a full score, or maybe a score of no. So a note is that you can apply this tool to evaluation reports regardless of whether you're using a quantitative, a qualitative, or a mixed methodology. It's meant to be, I think as Matt said, agnostic. In general, the questions are going to cover overall evaluation rigor. So this includes communication on the scope and purpose of the evaluation, research questions, the local context, tools and data collection methodologies that were used, quality control processes, acknowledgements of risks, limitations such as biases, sampling approaches, and the logical progression from sort of the introduction and the problem statement to the end results and conclusions. The CLD related questions cover both sort of the demonstration of an understanding of the local context and different engagements with local stakeholders throughout the evaluation process.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I think that covers everything, so I will turn it back over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And we hope this gave you a flavor, gave everybody a flavor of what the tool is. You can download the tool in English and French from the website. We are hoping to have them in multiple languages soon. If you or your team is able to do some translations or want to do translations for use, do share them with us so that it becomes a resource for everyone. And with that, I want to turn to Pablo. Pablo, you have been a part of this group since the beginning. Tell us what's unique about this tool. There are others, we have other quality appraisal tools out there, actually, so many of them. What makes this tool unique?
Great, thank you, Gunjan. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, great. So for me, the uniqueness of this tool is really in the way, yes, it's designed to assess evaluation reports in terms of their methodological rigor, but really those specific considerations for community-led development principles are what really make this something unique in our field. By providing an overall score as well as a score for CLD, organizations have a metric to assess how well they adhere to principles of community-led development in applying monitoring and evaluation of their programs. And so in this way, the tool provides a means of self-assessment, but also helps articulate and establish the standards of what CLD looks like within M&E. Really the first tool that I've seen that's designed with this intent. And I think really at the heart, it really aims to reinforce the idea that a quality evaluation means that communities have had meaningful influence over the research and evaluation processes across the design, implementation, analysis, and the sharing of results phases of a study. And I think in full transparency, we acknowledge that these are high standards for conducting M&E, but ultimately we agreed that those high standards shouldn't keep us from aiming for the principles that we agree to be important. So in addition to that, the tool is really designed, as we've heard, to be used across methodologies. So focusing on the core elements of the study, it really gives us a lot of flexibility to use this tool, whether it's a quantitative, qualitative, mixed methods, experimental design. That adaptability combined with the intent focus on community influence on the research process is what makes this tool a really unique asset in our line of work.
Thank you so much, Pablo. And I also want to reiterate the simplicity of this tool, right? It's just 13 questions. So it's not an exhaustive checklist with 50 or 80 things that you need to go over. And also how everything is defined. People would have seen when Jennifer showed us her screen, that for every question indicator, the yes, no, and partial is defined to help with this process. I want to turn to you, Ben, and ask you, so who do you see as, users? We've heard a little bit about this, but give us a little bit of more concrete example of who would be the users of this tool and how would they use it? What would that look like?
I think as the team has been talking the whole time, this is really designed to be a agnostic tool to work on assessing the quality of evaluations kind of across the board. And so in our mind, the users are very broad-based. You could think about, I mean, from my perspective as the director of monitoring evaluation at Heifer, I'm hoping that the different project teams that we have in the field will be using this tool. Oftentimes we farm out evaluations. You don't want to be evaluating yourself, so you have a third-party evaluator who's conducting the evaluation, but you need to make sure that those evaluations are high quality. And there's a lot of different metrics on how to assess quality. So having a simple tool, like you were just saying, Gunjan, that allows us to kind of very quickly assess, what type of quality are we getting from these evaluations that we're funding is really helpful. And having it standardized across our projects will make it much easier for me to be able to work with our monitoring evaluation teams to say, hey, this is the tool that you should use. It's very easy. You should use this, and then you can get quick feedback to the evaluators to say, hey, you need to document this more. As we were talking about in my breakout session in the last meeting here, one of our fears is that a lot of this stuff might be happening, but it's just not being recorded, because typically journals or other reporting agencies aren't asking for information on if the community was part of the evaluation design, because that's not something that they've looked for in the past. And so we're trying with this tool to get lots of different people, like you were saying, Gunjan, not just kind of development and M&E professionals, but kind of people who have some experience with this in this space, to be able to have a standard way to assess feedback and provide that feedback, and hopefully set that bar high. Like you were saying, Pablo, I mean, it is a high bar. We're not expecting everyone to hit the excellent right away. You know, you kind of start hopefully in the middle and work your way up. But with this tool, we're hoping to reach a broad audience. I think I'll leave it there. Thanks, Gunjan.
Thanks so much, Ben. So I think this has kind of come up throughout the day today, you know, and we heard this in the plenary session when the scoping group was presenting their findings from the landscape study about how we really do need to rethink the way we are doing evaluations and the way we are reporting evaluations, you know. So as you mentioned, Ben, you know, some of it we may be doing and we are not talking about it. Some of it we are not even doing, and some of it is not easy to do. But till we as implementing organizations or the funders actually decide that this is the way to go, that we are committed to the principles of CLD, we believe communities should be involved in this. And we believe that rigor is important, you know, till we all commit to that and have this conversation, it's not going to happen. And so I think the tool that this group has developed is actually a way in that direction. And that's why, as you were saying, Ben, it's useful not just to evaluators themselves, but to commissioners of evaluation, you know, to program people to know what is it that we are getting. It's useful for consultants. It's useful for funders to see that, you know, for their reports, when their evaluations are coming in, are they really getting community voices into it? And are they reporting back to communities? Because I remember that from the earlier session of the scoping group and the landscape report that we did, one comment or feedback that we had for funders is that that feedback loop of sharing back information with communities is so key, right? So all of that comes in. So with that, I want to open this up for questions. We know that this has been a very short time. We've just given you a sense, a glimpse into the tool. The tool is available for download on the website. And please, as you use it, share feedback. These are living instruments. We will improve them. But if you have any questions about the tool, about the applicability, about use, or any feedback, and friend speakers, please put it also into the chat box, and we will have somebody translate that for us. So please bring in any questions that you have.
So there's one immediate question from Marion. Hopefully the tool takes care of traditional efficiency, effectiveness, and relevance questions. And my answer would be that the tool is trying to push us beyond traditional efficiency, because we've even internally within Relief International, we've shared this tool and we've had pushback where people say, well, we just can't talk to communities in that time frame. And we say, well, just because you can in this instance doesn't mean that we should take that standard off the table. And so we're keeping the standards high, even if we can't meet them, but they should still be high. And that we should seek to meet them.
Gunjan, I have a question. So one of the reasons that I know that we've been committed to participatory M&E is that when you're not doing participatory M&E, you're undermining people's ownership of the actual result. It's a paternalistic, downward, up and down accountability that undermines the program. And my question is, do you see that this tool will help really not only improve evaluation for learning purposes, but also have M&E itself be part of the empowerment?
Thank you, John. Does anyone from the team want to take that question? That does this tool actually help us make M&E itself into an empowerment process. Because if CLD is about communities taking decisions about programs and leading them, then they need to know what is happening with the impact so that they can course correct.
Yeah, so it's, yes, John, to your point, absolutely. The tool, so to take a step back, yes, M&E processes typically in the past have, we ask questions, how do you think we're doing based on what we want to do? And we ask you questions based on how we want to get the answers. And the tool not only responds, to the intervention, but also to how should we ask you the questions and what questions do you think we should ask? So I think that is a powerful empowerment of the community, because if I want to know that, there are 2 boreholes functioning, then I'll ask you that. But if you really want to tell me that no one from X community, or sub community can access that, then, I should ask that. So yeah, so the tool does focus on that.
Thank you, Matt. So we have some questions coming up, and we also have people raising hands. What I am going to do in the interest of time is I'm going to read the 2 questions that we have here already, and then I'm going to invite the 2 people who have raised hands to ask their questions. And I would request them to be very succinct as they are asking their questions. And then we will go to the team, and maybe the team can answer it together. So the first question from Liana is about, what is the ideal time to use this tool, right? Should it be while you're designing an evaluation, or should it be when you're looking at an evaluation report, or can it be done at multiple times? So that's the first question, the timing, when to use it. The second question is about, how about, I'm sorry, somebody is not on mute, is about piloting the tool. So how about piloting the tool and the communities add in their own questions in different parts of the world? So I'm assuming, Marion, you mean that, communities, so we test this tool with communities and see if they want to, if there are questions that matter to them and M&E more, and to include them there. And then there is a question about, are we saying it's a tool for the community to assess our work in terms of what we set out to do? Well, I'm going to quickly actually say that no, we didn't exactly say that, but I will let the team come back on these 3 questions. And Isabel, do you want to quickly ask your question?
Sure. I'm wondering how realistic it would be to ask communities what they consider successful. Like what would be an interesting metric for them, for the organization to know that, like, this is what we would consider successful, is if you performed this thing. So that's my question, if that makes sense. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. So maybe the team can respond to these 4 questions, and then we can go to the other 2 people. So Dr. Rebecca and Faisal, we will come to you as soon as the team has answered this round of questions. Ben, are you speaking? Then you're muted.
Yep. I was thinking out loud. Sorry. I think on the question about having questions that are specific to the community, it would be difficult to have a standardized tool that had specific questions to individual communities. So I think you could probably add questions to the tool as if you wanted to say this is very important to us, or we wanted to include additional questions for assessment in this area. But as a standardized tool, I think we stuck to the standardized questions that we currently have. I don't know if others wanted to add.
Yeah, I think also when we designed the tool, we designed it for funders, implementing organizations, different groups within who could use this to see what the process of evaluation and what's in the report. Our recommendation in that is that process should involve the community in many ways, but I don't think the group actually saw the community as using this tool and therefore asking questions on this tool. I think we saw us as the people who are using this to ensure that our evaluation processes have built in a segment where the community can talk about what's important to them.
Yep, agree.
Matt, do you want to answer the question about timing, or does anyone else want to answer the question about
Yes.
timing?
Shall I answer?
I can jump in with some thoughts on the timing question.
Mhm.
I think the way we sort of rationalize the tool towards the end, and especially with consideration for the standards, is that it could be both diagnostic and prescriptive. And so adhering to those high standards and are sort of articulating what CLD looks like within the M&E space, the tool could be used to assess reports that have already been done. And I think that's our plan in terms of first steps in applying the tool, is looking at reports that we've already conducted, studies that we've already conducted, and using the tool to assess how well we did those studies, and then taking learnings from that and reapplying it to how we need to adjust. So I do think that it can be used at different ends, and maybe in different ways, both as a way to assess practices that you already have in place, and then also in the process of designing new strategies for M&E.
Thanks, Pablo. I also see other members of the group who are present here who were part of the development. So please, yes, Holta, thank you. Others, please feel free, answer the questions as they are coming on the chat or speak up here. I'm going to, Dr. Faisal, you can ask your question, and then Dr. Rebecca, after Faisal, maybe you can ask your question, and we will quickly do a last round of responses to those two questions. So Faisal, do you want to go?
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, I dropped my question on chat, but let me present. I think, as I see, this tool is good for quality evaluation. So what's the difference between, or how we can compare this CLD principle quality evaluation versus participatory impact assessment evaluation method? Because when we see participatory impact assessment method, particularly, it gives you like community can develop their own indicator of success, and there are a lot of process that you will follow. So I want to understand the difference and how they can support each other, or that was my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Faisal. Dr. Rebecca, would you like to ask your question? Or if it was
yes, my question is about, although someone mentioned it already, but about the time, because some international organization whom we work with, they give us a tool, and we went on assessment, especially on protection issues. And then we assess lack of water, lack of food. And so then they send it maybe to their donor agencies, and then came back and said, okay, now we will partner. And we went into the community, and so we implement the project. But then some of the assessment that came again, it was like different. And we read in the report that the problem that was assessed was like, is over, but the problem is not over. It's still there in the community. So, and that time I saw that some of the international organizations are using people just to go around and gather something, and then after it, get the fundings and give you small, and after it, they will say everything is perfect about that community. But you that are is there in the community, you see the problem is still there. So how can we use this tool? In the middle, from the beginning, in the middle, and then at the end, or how?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rebecca. I think the timing question is important and it's come up before. Pablo has also, I think, tried to answer that. We believe that this tool can be used, you can use it retrospectively. I know that we are also at the Hunger Project trying to, create a checklist which will be available even before we go into evaluations as we are commissioning future evaluations to make sure we cover these issues. So really, anytime you're doing the evaluation, you can use this tool, because I think what you're alluding to is a very important problem, which is that if you're not hearing from community members, then you really don't know what the impact is. And a lot of M&E reports or evaluation reports do not ask community members, right? And so we don't see what's really happening on the ground. And you also alluded to this extraction of information without giving back. And I think that was the point that we were trying to make earlier about, see, if you have an evaluation report grounded in CLD, it would not be an extractive process, because it is a mutually reinforcing process for both of us. But I'm going to turn to the teams to see if they have any last thoughts, if they want to answer Faisal's question or Dr. Rebecca's questions. And then we will have to, unfortunately, call the session to a close after the team has one chance of, one round of answering this. But you can always feel free to write to us. We will share contact details about questions now before you use the tool or after you use the tool, both questions and feedback. We want to hear from you, and we want to ensure that the tools become better and better as we use them, because they're for all of us. So team, does anyone want to answer Faisal's question about participatory impact assessment and connection with it? And or any other closing thoughts on all the questions that have come up?
Yeah, so to answer his question, I don't think that they are exclusive of each other. CLD is agnostic of methodologies. Ideally, if the methodologies are correct, because it's really about who you ask questions of and who you interact with. Just to focus on this last example, I think it's exactly what I was stressing before, which is that oftentimes INGOs ask questions and evaluations that let themselves feel better about what they've done, rather than acknowledging that that they have succeeded in what they said that they would do. And that's what CLD, I think, is about, is that if the community that we are committed to serve feel happy with what we've done, then we can commit, then we can say success. Not that we put 2 boreholes into a hospital and then we, that was our target with USAID. So I think that shift of a conversation is so important. Anyway, over to anyone else.
Would anybody else from the team like to respond to anything or have any closing thoughts on this?
I thought I could just quickly mention that, a couple of the comments were around how this tool might help improve M&E practices, or the issues around extractive M&E, and I think, Gunjan and Matthew already mentioned it, but when I think about this tool, one of the things I think it could be really helpful in is describing kind of best practices from a CLD perspective. And so by describing them and seeing kind of what we used to call in the team, like our unicorn evaluation looks like, kind of really working with the community to design the evaluation, to provide feedback on the results, to work with them throughout, to make sure the tool is properly kind of put together and accurate in its description. I think those are all kind of part of the tool is designed to improve M&E and the way M&E is done by working with the community. And so you can't score really well in the tool without working with the community. And so if that's currently not what's happening, then you're currently going to score poorly in how your evaluation it was done. And so hopefully we see this, in my mind, as a way for this tool to push the M&E community in that direction.
Thank you so much, Ben. Okay, so I know we are well over time. We've been, we've been running late and we are well over time, but thank you everyone who stayed back. Thank you to the teams who've developed this. This could not have been possible without each and every person who's actually been involved in this. I know the team is going to stay back for another 5 minutes or so if you have any questions, but John, if you can put us the contact us slide. We always want to hear from you. We always want your feedback on what is happening. And MCLD is also very happy to support you in any way to roll out these tools. So if you need help, assistance in any of those, if you have ideas, feedback, comment, get in touch with us. And with that, I think we are, unless Matt, you have something to say, we are at an official end to today's event. And a big thank you to everyone who has been here and stayed back all the way through.
No, there are a few technical points that we can send out via email as far as next steps, but I think that given that we're over time, we can send that, after this and let people interact with that. So thank you all.
Okay, yes. People are asking about the recording. Yes, this has been recorded, and yes, the recording will be shared with all registered participants. It will also be shared on the MCLD website, on the Food Security Network website, and the tools are already there. So, and as Matt mentioned, that any other points, contact details for the teams, they will be there in the follow-up email.
Thanks all, and great job to Gunjan and John.
Bye.
And all the research teams.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone
so
for
thank
all
you so
those
much.
hours, long hours that you've been putting to this behind the scenes.
And thank you, Gunjan, for
Yeah.
facilitating. Great job. It's great sessions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And thank
Everyone
you.
who
This is
participated.
Professor. Thank you so much.
Have a nice time.
Evaluation
Thanks, everyone.
How are you, John?
I'm good, Dr. Rebecca. It's so
Thank you.
always
Bye-bye.
nice to hear your voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Good to see
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye, Dr. Rebecca.
How are you?
Good. Good.
Thank everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Good to
Thank
see you.
you. Thank you. I'm
How
sure
are
we're
you?
going to be.
Paul, are you here?
Okay, so thank you.
Yes,
Hi,
I'm here.
Tanya.
Yes, oh, hi, Rebecca. Bye.
How are you?
Yes, I'm doing well.
How are you?
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Hello, Paul, et merci. Merci.
Merci.
How are you, my Rebecca? How you doing?
I'm fine.
Hi, Madam Anne. How you doing?
Hi, good to see you. Thanks for participating.
Bye. You can see
Is
me.
that your new home in Pennsylvania you're in?
Yes, we are. I'm really enjoying Pennsylvania. It's like I love
Hello,
it.
Anne. Thank you, everybody.
Good.
Thank you, too.
I'm sorry.
Today I took a break from my professor because I want to take this important meeting.
That's
Thank
good.
you for your invitation.
Thank you.
Yes.
All
Okay,
right, I
thank
have to
you.
run.
Okay.
Yes. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
We'll talk
Bye-bye.
to you soon. Good to see you all.
Yes.
Good.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye everyone. Thank you so much. We are now going to end this call, but we are always happy to hear from you. We are always happy to get your feedback. And if you want to learn more about the movement, the national chapters, all of us are always reachable. So thank you for being you, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Gunjan.
Thank you.
Wonderful.